Interstate T, No Secrets is True, Jazreel Emil Kavan. As we go through life, there will be challenges. There will be heartbreaks. There will be moments in your life where you cannot see the dawn of tomorrow, where you cannot see the hope left within your heart, where you feel that man has turned against you, your friends, your family, your lovers. And today I say unto you, waiting hands, pray. When you are down and you're looking for a way out and a way up, waiting hands, pray. When you are going through a situation that nobody else can understand but God himself, waiting hands, pray. They say idle hands is the devil's workshop. So I say to you that when you find yourself in a moment of peace and tranquility and there is calmness, still pray. For it says that we should be praying without ceasing, that we should be in line with the way God is moving. And if you want to follow his footprints and follow the trail of God, you have to begin to pray. You have to allow yourself to let go of all the other drama in your life, let go of all your problems, and begin to pray. Begin to speak to the Father, the Master Creator, the lover of man. You have to realize that we were created to be instruments of the Lord. We was created to do his will. We was created to be more than just man, more than just a woman. We was created to rise above all those things. We was created to move mountains out of the way, to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to believe in God above all things. Put him first. As I said before so many times, we don't really spend time with God. God spends time with us, but we don't spend time with God. We work 8 hours a day, if not more. We get 8 hours of sleep, that's 16 hours. And then we spend our times with our family, going to the club, watching TV, playing video games, and everything else. But we do not spend time with the Lord. It is the reason why so many people are confused, why so many people are abused by the enemy. Because at a time in our life where we should be focused on the goal at hand, meeting our Father once again, being in the presence of the angels of the Most High. As I said to my students before, you don't want to get to heaven and have nothing to say, have no victories under your name. You don't want to be the oddball out in heaven, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to say what you need to say. You must begin to understand that God is always speaking to you. He loves you, but he asks you to obey him. When the disciples asked Jesus, what prayer should I pray? He said that you should pray, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. for thine is the glory forever and ever and ever. And the reason for that is because Jesus said vain prayers don't get to God. Screaming out and hollering out don't get to God. But when you pray that prayer, the enemy has no idea what you're praying for, but God does. We must remember that the enemy is omnipresent, just as God is omnipresent. The enemy is waiting for you to speak about what you don't have, about what you want, about what is happening in your life. And once you speak it, he begins to move to destroy what joy you do have left, to destroy the dream of what you want to happen. The enemy wants to cause you to be angry. The enemy wants you to be afraid. The enemy wants you to feel alone. The enemy wants you to walk away from the path of God. But I say, waiting hands, pray. I pray each and every moment of my life because it is a miracle for me to still be breathing. It's a miracle for me to be able to walk down the street. It's a miracle for me to be able to be conscious and know what I'm speaking, how I'm speaking, what I'm wearing, how I dress, how I carry myself. We have to remember the battles of our ancestors that made it possible for us to be here today, made it possible for us to be strong in the name of God, to have authority to be able to change things by the words that we speak. When the disciples asked, what is the foods that is unworthy for us to eat? Jesus said, it is not the food that you should be worried about, but what comes out of your mouth defiles you. It ain't the pig feet. It ain't the ribs. It ain't what you had for dinner last night. What defiles you is what you say, what comes out of your mouth. How do you do the things that you do, the deeds? Now, I know that none of us is perfect, that we all have our issues, that we all have our problems. I call mine feeding the beast. I know I'm going to do something wrong. I know I'm going to mess up. But I can control the things that I do. I can control the mistakes that I make. If I follow the simple plan of EAO, event, action, and outcome. For me, feeding the beast is when I do something like cussing. When I do something like being, negative with certain things. When I don't see positivity in the outcome of something that just happened. I call that feeding the beast. We all got to feed the beast. You feed the beast to keep the beast at bay. But you have to remember that the mistakes that you make, you can't make them again. Because if the enemy knows that your weakness is one thing, he will drill you and drill you and drill you and drill you until you have no strength left to protect yourself. I've said it many times again. I hate when preachers say, oh, now that you're saved, that the devil's going to come after you even more, without teaching you how to defend yourself against the enemy. First of all, the enemy is kin. It is your brother. Your enemy was created by God, which means You were created by God, which means that you are related. And some of you can understand, if your brother or your sister called you, they made a mistake, you would do everything you can in your power, including lying, to save them. So it's very hard to protect yourself against the enemy that is like a God, but also your brother. And the devil laughs because he doesn't do his tricks in plain sight. He hides behind individuals, turning people's hearts cold, whispering in their ear to say negative things, whispering in their ears to do negative things. The enemy is very smart. If we look at it, he created a duality. He has created himself his own empire, his own temple, his own way of doing things, all by Adam eating the apple. That's how it started. Tricking Adam to believe that he would have more knowledge, that he would be as a God. And it is true that man is as if it was a God. You have the power to choose between right and wrong. They call it free will. I call it stupidity. When you are in the arms of God, when you are in the path of God, when you're calling upon God, you have only one direction to go. Now, most of us, when we're in our cars and we're driving and we're trying to get to a location, we follow the direction. There is only one direction that you can follow to get to your point of destination. Now, you can try other routes and other avenues, but you take the quickest and the shortest route. You take the direct path to your destiny. The enemy wants to fool you into believing that you have a choice between doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. But when you belong to God, you always do what is right. You have but only one choice: to follow the Master, to follow the Father, to follow the great Creator. And the enemy knows that you believe that you have free will. So he's spending all his time speaking in the ear of God, saying, look at him. Look at the mistakes. And you call that creation amazing? You think that creation is better than me, better than us? Some people don't believe that the devil is still in heaven. Oh, he's still in heaven. And he's putting us on trial before the Lord. That's why God said the book of life is where all the names shall be recorded, where all the deeds shall be recorded, where the judgment will be made based on the deeds and the fruit of your trees. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they are the sons and daughters of God. When you're a peacemaker, you don't have time to be straying away from your path. You're focused on what you need to do to bring peace. You're focused on what you need to do to allow God to do his thing. We're the forerunners. We're preparing the way for God. As a servant of God, we begin to lay out everything that God needs to see, everything that God needs to know in order for God to do his thing. So I say to you once again, waiting hands pray. It's important because by your prayer, he knows what you need. He knows what to do and how to do it. How to pull you out of a circumstance that you didn't want to be in the first place. How to defeat the enemy before the enemy gets even close to you. He gives you the power of discernment so that you can be able to discern when you are in trouble, when you begin to stray away from the path of God. We honor those who we have lost in life by doing even more works in the name of God. I know some people are devout church-going people and say, oh, I got to give 10% to my church. I say that that's not what God intended. God intended 10% to go back to the community, 10% go back to your family, 10% go back to your friends, 10% go back to the lost, the lonely, and the hungry, and the homeless. Tithing in church is only empowering the church to grow larger, but it does not help the neighborhoods around it. Now, there are some churches that take the money and create shelters for the homeless and create meals for the homeless or those who need meals. There are the churches that not worried about expanding. They're doing the mission that they were called to do. But most of the churches are all about creating mega churches. And I despise that because you don't reach nobody. You come every Sunday hoping that that sermon will move you and touch you and get you into that feeling of God is with me. And you can only do that on a one-on-one basis. You can't do that when you have 2,000 followers in church because you don't know their names. The only names you know are the ones that tithe the most, who is well off in the community. Well, not all of us are well off. Not all of us has the opportunity to go to church on Sunday when we have to put food on the table, make sure there's a roof over our head. Not all of us agree with the structure of a church. But it is in the Bible, he said that when one or more come in my name, that is a church. What I'm saying to you is it's time for you to begin to reshape your life. It's time for you to pray without ceasing. It's time for you to begin to praise the God who has given you breath, the God who has given you victory over the enemy so many times. It's time to give back to God for all the things he has blessed you with. He only asks us a few things to do in his name. Be true and be righteous. Speak the truth and live the truth. Be not afraid of those who don't understand that it's time for a change in your life. Don't be afraid of those who continue down the path of destruction. Don't worry about them, because when it comes down to judgment day, it is your soul that is on the line. It is your heart that will be searched. It is your mind that will be searched. I wake up every morning knowing that I have a heavy heart because I have woken up and I have things I need to do. I have people that depend on me to do certain things. I know that my burden is heavy, but it's lighter than any other burden I've ever had when I begin to pray, when I begin to ask the Lord to move in a direction to help me, clear my path before me so I can sprint to my destination. See, I set small goals because I know that when God works with me, He has the long-term goal and vision. All I have to do is take one step, put one foot in front of the other. I know that some of us are damaged. Some of us were abused. Some of us grew up in some of the toughest neighborhoods there could be. Some of us are still looking for that light that they can follow out of the darkness. Some of us are still praying for the abuse to end, for the pain to end, for the shame to be erased. And I'm telling you that the God that we know, the Almighty God, the Alpha and the Omega, He who is, He who was, and He who will be, loves you. He sees you as a pure individual. He does not judge you based on your mistakes. He judges you based on the deeds that you do. When Jesus came upon the earth, He turned everything upside down. He said, I did not come to bring peace, but discord between a mother and a daughter, between a father and son, between a brother and a sister, between neighbors. He also said that He came to reunite man with God, tear the temple open so that we will be able to utter praise and utter prayers unto God and for Him to hear us. No more of the Old Testament where you had to build an altar, when you had to sacrifice a lamb. See, a lot of people don't get into the Old Testament and understand all the things they had to do to be able to reach out to God. But our generation has the power to call upon God, has the power to use His authority to shape and change our own lives as well as other lives. It is the major reason why I say waiting hands pray. Because while you're waiting, what are you doing? You're going to keep messing up? God is not a maid. You're going to sit there silently? God is not going to try to pick your mind and see what you want. He wants to hear from you. He wants to know that you know He's there. He wants the love that He deserves. He created us in His own image. We cannot defile that image and expect God to be merciful. The time has come for us to choose a side. The time has come for us to choose whether we are willing to follow God to the end or whether we're going to be cowards and refuse to stand up. Be cowards and refuse to pray. Be cowards and refuse to do the deeds that God intended us to do. Be cowards and be afraid of our destiny. and our potential. I say to you that God has blessed you. No matter what your circumstances is, if you're still able to hear this message, if you're still able to feel the power of God inside you, if you still have a heart that beats, a mind that thinks, then God has blessed you. God is not concerned with the material things. Only man is concerned about material things. God ain't concerned about that. God has promised you a roof over your head and food in your mouth. And for those who do not have those things, God has sent his people to do the things that they need to do to help the homeless, to help the motherless, the fatherless. He said that we are our brother's keeper, that we are our sister's keeper. And we must remain that. He said, knock and the door shall be opened. That the kingdom of heaven is inside you and all around you. Because when he gave you life, he breathed into you part of the kingdom, part of the power, part of the authority of him. Now you can listen to the enemy. You can play around. You can believe that you have free will to do whatever you want. You can walk around with the mantra that all I have to do is say that I believe in Jesus Christ and I'm saved. You can do that. Or you can do work that makes a difference. You can do work that will change lives. You can do work that will remind God of the legacy of man. You can defy all odds. You can do the impossible. You can defeat the devil at his own game. You can defend yourself with all of the force of heaven. Because remember in the prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So trust and believe as we are warring here on earth that heaven is warring as well. That there's angels in the midst fighting battles for us, standing up for us. Give us one more chance. Give them one more chance. Give them one more time to pray. Surely the children of man will pray to the God that created them. Surely the creation of man will give back unto the people just as God has given to them. It's time for us to break the shackles, the chains that have been keeping us in bondage and believing that we cannot go on. We can and we will. As I said before, we can either walk this path together or we can walk it alone. But either way you look at it, those who believe in God is going to walk the path. They're going to get to their destination. And if you're in their way, I pray for you. Because when you begin to pray without ceasing, there is nothing you can't do. There is nothing that you can't change. There is nothing that can defeat you. There is no weapon formed that can prosper against you. So I say to you, when you begin to feel down and out and you feel like the devil has his foot on your neck, that you have a choice. You have a choice. Waiting hands, pray, and God will answer. that I do promise.